Hello, friends and family. Welcome to the You Are Worthy Network. It's the second time I've been with you today, but it's awesome because I love reminding you every time we get together that you're worthy of love, respect, and success. I hope you had a relaxing weekend. I hope you got things done that you needed to get done. But most of all, I just want to remind you that you're worthy. And so I'm super excited to introduce to you my guest today. And I'm gonna read you her bio that'll tell you quite a bit about her. But you'll learn more about her heart, which is big, like really, really big. You'll learn about her heart as we converse back and forth here in a couple minutes. I'm honored to know Deana. She has become a friend and I find her extremely trustworthy and wise, and I think you'll find her the same way and more. Um, Deana Mitchell is a driven, optimistic, compassionate leader in all areas of her life. As an international best-selling author, motivational speaker, and award-winning entrepreneur, Deana authentically shares her experiences for the benefits of others. Her work as a consultant and co-founder of the Wolf Pack Mentors Mastermind allows her to use her unique perspective of customizing a path forward for any situation. As president of Genius and Sanity, she teaches her proprietary framework created from her own experiences of burnout and always putting herself last for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to continue or expand their business while taking better care of themselves and achieving the life of their dreams. In 2022, Deana released her book, The Shower Genius: How Self Care, Creativity, and Sanity Will Change Your Life Personally and Professionally. Also, Deana is the founder and executive director of the Realize Foundation. She is a suicide survivor herself and vulnerably uses her own mental health journey to let others know there is hope. The Realize Foundation produces events, a podcast, and a best selling book series that let people know they are not alone. As a 3 decade event professional and an award winning entrepreneur, Deana authentically shares her experiences for the benefit of others. Starting in college, Deana worked her way through the hospitality and event industry from food and beverage to banquets and conference services to owning her own DMC for 10 years. She has an impressive client list of Fortune 100 to 500 companies and 11 awards to show her creativity and execution abilities. Her work as a consultant allows her to use her unique perspective as customizing a path forward for any situation. Also, Deana is the founder and executive director. I think I read that. Sorry, I got blurred there. Goodness gracious. There's so many different avenues we could take. But first things first, Deana, welcome to the You Are Worthy Network.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. My goodness. I hope you are around, God willing, for a long, long time, many, many more years, but you have lived a full life already. But before we jump into some of that, tell us where you're coming from today and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you like to do.
Yeah, I'm in Colorado Springs. That's where I live now. I've lived all over the state of Colorado. I've worked in all the ski resorts. But I grew up in Louisiana, outside of between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. So that's where I grew up. And I did get my degree from LSU. So go Tigers. But I've been very blessed in the travel department. And I've moved 52 times since high school. So I've lived in a lot of places, gotten to do a lot of amazing things. And my family calls me the gypsy of the family. Um, but I think back in college, I went to Alaska to work for the summer and I was completely hooked on the mountains. So
Mm.
mountains are my thing. I used to ski a lot. I used to raft and I was I was a raft guide for a summer. I was a ski instructor for a while, and I just really like outdoors and being in the mountains. I've lived at 10,000 feet for like 15 years. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm getting a little jealous of all your outdoor activities for sure. Rafting sounds nice.
It is. It can be very dangerous, but it is fun. It is fun. The older I get, the more leery I am of all those activities because I'm not in shape like I used to be.
Yeah, I find myself starting a lot of conversations nowadays with several years ago and several pounds ago. I'm like, oh well, getting old. I had a friend that used to say, getting old is not for wimps. Boy, he was right.
That's true. It's very true. I think
So do you have your family nearby with you in Colorado Springs?
my husband and I live here. My parents are in Louisiana. My brother's in Louisiana, and my stepchildren are in Georgia.
Okay.
So
So,
we're not all in
I-
one place.
yeah, I was gonna say Louisiana and what was the other place you just said? Did you say Georgia?
Georgia, yeah.
Yeah, that's a long way from Colorado for sure.
Hmm.
So you got to tell me about Wolf Pack Mentors Mastermind. Where does the name come from? And then more importantly, what's that all about?
Well, I don't know. I've always just had this thing for wolves. I've just always loved them. And when I went to Alaska the first time, I got to meet a whole bunch of sled dogs. And I actually adopted a sled dog and they retired him from Snowmass, Colorado. And he was 12 when I got him and he lived to be 18. And then we had two other huskies and they're just incredible animals and they're very similar to wolves in many ways. And so I was just always, you know, there's a book I read a long time ago, just like a paperback book called The Loop, and it's all about wolves and how these scientists studied them out in the wilderness. And it was just fascinating to me, and so I've always really liked wolves. So Wolfpack Mentors came about because a friend of mine, well, he's now my business partner, but Christopher and I were, it was probably like 2022-ish, maybe a little before that, but we were in all these, we were paying all these coaches to learn different things about online businesses because I had had an event company before COVID and I lost everything like
Hmm.
in a month, week, I don't know, everything stopped. For me, we did high-end corporate events all over the state of Colorado and it just was gone. So
Hmm.
I was in a lot of online groups at that time trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And Christopher and I kept getting put in breakouts together, like at different events. And so we finally had a conversation and we started talking about how we really wanted to help other solopreneurs, people who are starting a business or have a business and need support in some way. And how can we help those people? Because we've been there and we knew the struggles. And a lot of it was tech as well. And so we help people with all that strategy, mindset, tech, just, and we have accountability packs we call that are groups of four people that are in our program that meet every week with one of us. And so we are a lot more hands-on than most masterminds I've been a part of. And I think it's really important that people get that kind of support, not just a Q&A Zoom call, but a one-on-one with the people they're paying to help them. And so that's what Wolfpack Mentors is.
Yeah, I love that vision, and um, I'm living proof of many of those masterminds. And depending on your perspective and where your heart is in a given day, you can usually find value in most of those. But
Hmm.
I think what you're saying is really, really valuable that for those that are newer in the entrepreneur space, they do need a little hand holding, and even some coaching programs, not trying to knock anything out there, but
Mhm.
like kind of this thought process of, what do you want to talk about today? And, how do you want to get there? I mean, there is some value in it, like I said, but it's like if I'm trying to learn to hit a baseball to the opposite direction, there's actually some techniques that go with that. And if I'm not doing well at hitting the ball to the opposite field, then I need some hands-on coaching on where to position my hands on the bat, where to stand in the batter's box. I mean, it's more, I'm looking to you because you've done it. And it sounds like that's what y'all are doing.
Yeah, as of today, I've had 7 businesses. I've had some pretty big failures. But my event company, I had it for 10 years and we were doing multi-millions, and it's definitely my biggest success, and I'm sad most days that it's gone. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it's given me opportunities to help other people in several different ways. And so I don't know, it's fun.
What what would be, I'm sure there was many lessons from that setback. What would you say the primary lesson was?
Well, before that happened, I was really reevaluating my own business and my own personal situation, because for decades I had been working 24/7. I was always telling people that I cared about. No, I was not taking time to do things that I really enjoyed. I worked all the time, and I did love what I did, and I loved the people I worked with. But right before COVID, I had made a lot of changes for me personally in my business in a way that gave me more freedom, more time freedom. And I really thought it was going to be detrimental to my business. And instead, the next year we doubled our revenue.
Mm,
And so I proved to myself that what I was doing was good for me and good for my business. And so after COVID, I wrote a book about that. It's like a 12-step framework. It's called The Shower Genius. I know people are like, why? Where did that come from? So during COVID, I was in my shower washing my hair, and I didn't have anywhere to be. And so I would have all these creative ideas about what I wanted to do next. And I'd get to my desk and I couldn't remember them. And so I put a whiteboard in my bathroom, and that's how it started. But it really, I think it's a book. I wrote it for business owners and entrepreneurs, but I think it could really help busy professionals and executives as well, because it's all about what are we willing to put up with? What are we willing to accept? And what are we fed up with? And if you can start with what are you fed up with, it will lead you to the changes that you need to make. And I give you a step-by-step process of how to do that. So that's what I'm really passionate about in the business world, is not only helping people start and grow businesses, but how do you start and grow businesses in a way that you're not sacrificing yourself?
yeah, you're so spot on. Like you and I didn't talk very much before we went live, but I was definitely, I'm sure you get asked all the time about the origin of the name of the book. I mean, it's definitely lends to more questions. And a whiteboard in the shower, it's like genius. I love it. Where can folks find that book, by the way? Is it just Amazon or do you have another place for it?
Amazon. It's just called The Shower Genius. It's a white cover with blue. I can show you what it looks like. It looks like this.
Okay. Okay.
So
I
yeah,
love
you
it.
can get it on Amazon. But I think it's what I'm starting to speak more about, because I think it's relevant to so many people. I came from the event industry for 30 years, and the event industry really, really needs that framework, at least the first 5 steps of it, because in the event industry, we're all people pleasers. We're all, working way more than 40 hours a week because when you have an event, you're setting up from 7 a.m. till it starts, and then after the event, you're loading everything out till 1 or 2 in the morning. I mean, it's the nature of the business. But we have to be able to take care of ourselves, and a lot of for many, many years doing events, I did not see a way to do that. And so it's really important to me to put that out in the world to try to help people have more balance in their life and be able to spend more time with their loved ones.
That's so good. Let me take you back to the book for just a half second. This is a selfish question. Is the book available on Kindle also?
It is. And
Awesome. Okay.
it's about to be on Audible in the next couple months, probably.
Very nice. Very nice. So why don't you give us a little compare and contrast about the way you used to work, how many hours you alluded to people pleasing, when you did all the events, had your own companies versus what you've learned since then and how you approach it now.
Well, before, I just thought I had to be everywhere all the time. I thought that I needed to be the first one in the office, the last one to leave. And when I had employees in the office, a lot of times I didn't get anything done. I was there helping them or training them, or I was just distracted, and not accomplishing things. And I also, we would have early morning stuff that we had to be at. Sometimes we would have to be um, at a hotel at 3 a.m. for departures. We'd have to be loading in and out of events at crazy times. And so I was always there for all of that. And we were doing events all over the state of Colorado. So we worked in all the ski resorts. We worked in Vail and Aspen and Telluride, and then we were doing stuff in Denver in the stadium. We were just doing stuff all over the place. I think the busiest week we ever had was probably around 2018 or 19, and we had um, 7 events across 3 cities in one week, and some of them were multi-day events.
Mm.
And so I went from that to I had such a great team and great employees, and they were good at what they did, and they wanted more responsibility. So giving them that more responsibility and taking it off of my plate was a big part of what I changed. The other thing I changed is really focusing on my own strengths and delegating everything else, because I used to think I had to do everything. And even, I hired an accountant and a CPA, which I had worked with for a while, but I still was kind of micromanaging it. And I finally just said, I'm not going to be in the middle of this anymore. I'm just going to let you run with it. And every month we're going to meet and see what I need to look at or what questions I need to answer. Um, and so there were just different things like that. We started hiring more contract staff to help with events. Um, and I really was focused on sales and going to trade shows and traveling to meet with clients. And when I made those changes, like I said, our revenue was double the next year.
Mm. And that next year was 2019.
Yep.
Wow.
And in 2020, it would have been double again.
Yeah, so I know there's a balance here somewhere, like the momentum, the doubling of revenue, the success, kind of the highlight reels, right? And you've even that you miss it. quite a bit. But it sounds like there's some blessings that came from COVID too. Would that be fair?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you elaborate on kind of what they were looking back now?
Well, I think that um, in 2018, when all that was happening, I also lost a friend to suicide.
Mm,
And he was somebody in our industry, somebody that I'd known for 20 years. And I know we were going to talk about this later, maybe, but I survived an attempt when I was 27, and then I didn't say a word about it for 23 years until he died. And I just felt like God was asking me to speak up about the subject, but I didn't know how to do that, and I was scared to do that because I was a business owner. I was on boards. I was, I had employees, and I was like, how is everybody going to feel about me talking about suicide all of a sudden? Like they're not going to understand it. And so it was hard for a while. And when 2020 actually 2019, my husband and I went on a trip to Jamaica, and we were sitting on the beach talking about life.
mhm,
And I just decided during that conversation that I was going to start a nonprofit, and I had no idea what it was going to look like, but I was going to do it. And in January of 2020, I got a tattoo on my arm that says thankful for the scars, because there was this song called Scars by the band I Am They. And I had listened to that song thousands of times during this whole, like, what am I going to do about this? And so I came to the realization that I was saved that night for a purpose. And I believe the purpose are the things I'm doing now. And if COVID wouldn't have happened, none of that would have transpired, if that makes sense.
mhm,
And so March 30th of 2020, I got the EIN number for the Realize Foundation. I applied for nonprofit status, and I was like, okay, now what? But a lot's transpired since then, and I want to give you a chance to ask a question or tell me where you want me to go next.
No, I mean it flowed naturally, and that's the way I like it. So I want to make sure I've got. Well, first of all, let me say I'm sorry about your friend. Um, that's incredibly difficult, uh, and then at the same time, I'm grateful that you're still here. Um, I want to make sure I've got this right. So
Mm.
your attempt was at 27, and it was 2 decades before you told somebody.
Yeah, it was 1997, and I spoke up in 2020. I mean, I was thinking about it in 2018 and 19, but I never said anything.
Can you describe some of the emotions leading up to the attempt and some of the emotions for those all those years where you didn't feel like you could share it?
Yeah, at that time I was a restaurant manager in Phoenix, Arizona, and I was dating somebody who I thought I was going to marry. Thank goodness I did not.
Mm,
He was a chef, so we both worked in the restaurant hospitality industry. Um, we had known each other since we were little kids. We started dating in college, and it was a very toxic relationship. And we both used to drink a lot back then. And I don't want to go into too much of those details, but
yeah.
I just felt like I was alone and nobody cared. And I knew that there were people in the world that cared about me and loved me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in that relationship, I felt alone and I felt
Mm.
like he didn't care. And I felt like there were other things going on behind my back. And there was a night when I had drank a lot and I just decided I was done. And afterwards, we ended up breaking up and he left. And so I was living by myself and I was working a lot. And um, a lot of different things happened, but it's kind of a long story. But what I felt was that I got really back to my faith that I had gotten away from for a long time, which was very important to me. And I've just always been very driven. Like my parents have owned their own businesses. I grew up with a lot of support from my family. I just was always driven. I was always told that I could do whatever I wanted to do with myself, with my life. And I believed that. And I also saw how that affected people around me that cared about me. And so it was never an option after that. And I didn't talk about it because I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't think it was okay
Mhm.
to talk about it. Back then people weren't talking
Yeah,
about suicide.
right. That's right.
Um, and so it didn't, I just kind of buried it. And when my friend died, I had seen him in Vegas at a show and he was going through some struggles. And it was visibly obvious to me that he was struggling. And we were going to go have dinner that night and he had to go do something with a client, which that's why we're there. So, and we said, well, when we get back to Colorado, we'll catch up and have lunch. And I never got the chance to have lunch with him. And I think that's the part that was so hard for me because I was like, if I could have had that conversation, would it have mattered? And that, what I just said, is what drives me to do what I do in my nonprofit.
So your friend, this was not terribly long ago.
2018.
Yeah, wow. Okay. So a lot of what you do now is driven by what you experience and then his passing. I mean, you have the podcast that's, I don't, yeah, tell us a little more about the podcast.
Yeah, so the organization is called the Realize Foundation. And what we did was we started doing virtual summits back in 21 where people would tell their stories. And we started doing 3-day events, because that was the thing that was happening back then.
Mhm.
And so we just got people together and we got people talking about whatever their struggles were or adversity they had been through. And what that turned into was a now Amazon best-selling book series called Scars to Stars. Sorry, I have to show you what it looks like. So they
You
look like
go.
this. And so we have 4 of these books now. We're going to start book 5 in March of 26.
Awesome.
And then we also turned it into a podcast because we do virtual book launch events. And so I needed video of all the authors. So I started interviewing them on our YouTube channel, which is what started the podcast. Um, I was on a, I was being interviewed on a podcast a couple years ago by a lady who did podcasting services. She had a company that did that. And after our conversation, she said, Deana, I want to turn your YouTube channel into an official podcast. Would you let me do that? And I was like, wow, yes, please.
Yes.
And so for a year, they produced my podcast for free. They helped me set it up and
Mm.
everything. And so now it's much better than it used to be. And yeah, we release an episode every week. Every year we take maybe like a 4 week break, but which we did in September, but we do it every week on Wednesday. We have a new episode, and it's the books and the podcast are just all kinds of stories of overcoming adversity. It's not all about suicide. It's about all the things that
Yeah.
get people to suicide. And so it's really about how do we let people know that someone else has been there, they're not alone, there is hope, and there's a link that they can reach out to this person and talk to them about it. And I always say if I could have read a Scars to Stars book or listened to a podcast during my 23 years of silence, I probably would have talked to somebody sooner.
Mm. Yeah, that makes total sense. Um, yeah, I had the privilege of being invited by Deana to her podcast. I had a lot of fun doing it. Do you tell me stop if this isn't okay, but if you're interested in being a guest, reach out to Deana. We'll have all her contact information in the description at the end. But I assume you're looking for guests all the time, right?
Yeah, I love when people reach out to me because it's I have a couple people who place podcast guests that send me people a lot, but I want to talk to everybody who wants to be on it. And it's just really a conversation, kind of like what we're having. It's not anything formal or anything like that. It's really just a honest conversation. And and also if people are interested in writing their story, we're gonna, so our books have always come out in September for Suicide Prevention Month, but now we're doing a bigger virtual event in September for that. And we're gonna start doing our books in the spring so they come out for Mental Health Awareness Month in May. So we'll be starting that in March, and it's a 12-week process that we go through together as a group. So it's not you just write something and turn it in. Like it's more of an experience of, talking about what you're going to write about, which story you want to tell. How do we publish this? How do we market this? How do we hold each other's hands? And, it's hard to write some of these things. So it's kind of a support group for writing your story.
Sure seems to me like most everything you involve yourself with, you're hands-on.
Yes.
Has it always been that way?
Yes.
No,
I
I
think
think I
it's,
think it's reflective of your heart.
mhm. I mean, I'm getting to a point where I'm like, I really need to hire a couple BAs. But other than that, I'm never gonna not be involved. It's just I feel like I said in the beginning, I feel like God saved me that night in 1997 for this exact purpose. And I it doesn't seem like something I can just delegate.
I absolutely love the difference you're making. Um, one of the things that we remind folks of on here, and it's even on my banner, is your story's not over yet.
That is true.
And he wasn't done with you in 1997, thank God. And I love, I always say with healing comes responsibility. And
Mhm.
sometimes that very thing, responsibility, is why we don't want to be healed because we know there's a give back aspect of it. But that's not you. You are full of gratitude and humility and purpose, and you want to give back. And so I just want you to know I admire your life. I admire the difference you're making in this world. They say we can't control the day we were born, and most of the time we can't control the day to death, but you're doing amazing things with that dash in between.
Well, thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. I think it's, my dad said to me every day of my life, God has a plan for you. And when I was younger, I didn't really believe that. I mean, it didn't seem real to me when I was younger, but it does now.
Mm,
It really does.
yeah, I think that comes with a lot of different experiences and the wisdom that you gain along the way. I think that's it'd be a shame to go through those experiences and not be wiser and more giving.
Hmm. What I think when we started our books, it was really about people who had been through something and made a business out of it, kind of like what I've done. But there's so many people in the world right now that are really taking their pain and making it their purpose. And it's like, I guess it's a fad now, but it's something that's happening a lot. And I think that people who've written in our books, we've had 77 chapters in our 4 books. And it's like people come and either they've never written anything and they're scared to death and they're like, I've not,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm even over whatever happened to them. But writing has been so healing for everybody. And I think I didn't really realize that because people used to tell me you should journal. And I was like, I don't have time for that. And during COVID, I started journaling, and I can't even tell you how healing it is. And then people would come write in books and tell me the same thing. And I think, talking about it is one thing, but writing, even if it's your own journal and nobody ever reads it, it helps so much. Get the stuff out of your head and on paper. And Keith Hanks is somebody who wrote in one of our books. He's a retired firefighter and he speaks and he's written a book about his life. And he said to me when he was writing in our book, he was writing his own book at the same time, but it wasn't published yet. And we were on a call one day and he held up a piece of paper to Zoom, you know, and he said, Deana, when you write it, it's just words and it doesn't hurt anymore.
Mm,
And to
wow.
me, that was profound because
Yeah.
yeah, I never looked at it that way. And so it was, I don't know, it just kind of woke me up to another level of what we do because it is so healing to write what you don't want to talk about.
Very therapeutic for sure. Um, I remember having a coach that was pushing me to, and he didn't really have to push me because I had an outline for my first book for a long, long time. But limited thinking, imposter syndrome, the whole family, is why and did get busy. Uh, and I wrote that book. I got off a coaching call with him, and he said, "When are you going to write that book?" And I said, "I'm not paying you to talk about that book." Yeah, but I got the message and I wrote it in a very short period of time. And it involves some going back in time and some revisiting some events and some relationships. And it was very therapeutic. So I think there's definitely something to be said about that. As we wrap up, I was thinking there must be another move in your future that you don't know about because I don't think your heart will fit in Colorado much longer. You're gonna have to move to Texas or somewhere bigger because your heart for people is so huge. Um, you've given us a little glimpse with the I think you said the books were going to move to the spring, and then your event in the fall. What else is coming down the pike that you know about that you can tell us?
Well, I want to tell you something, but first, on the Realize Foundation front, I'm actually going to be at a business conference this weekend, and I have a chance to do a pitch, and I'm going to pitch the Realize Foundation for supporters and sponsors. So I'm super excited about that opportunity. And I will say that my vision for this is really big. And that means that there is a Scars to Stars group for free in every city in the world every week. Because I have had so many people tell me they go to AA meetings for the support they need, but they are not alcoholics.
Mhm.
And I said, so how can we have a mental health network like that? That's my vision. Um, but the thing that I'm most excited about today is that Wolfpack is starting to do retreats. So our first one will be in January. We're going to be in Boise for 3 days. Um, and we're going to probably do these quarterly, if not more in the future, because they're very small groups. So we have 9 clients, 9 to 12 clients. January will only be 9. Um, and we're going to do the work that's in the Shower Genius book. I mean, we're going to help people work on their businesses, but that's where we're starting. And I think it's a great networking opportunity. It's a great personal growth opportunity. And for those business owners like I used to be, where you're successful, or maybe you're just starting out, but you're feeling alone and you're feeling like you have a lot of stress and exhaustion. You're dealing with things you can't talk to your employees or your family about. Those kind of situations need groups like this, and that's what I'm excited about. I've been planning this for 3 years, so I'm super excited that it's finally happening.
That's incredible. And so someone that may be interested in learning more about that retreat, when we put the links in the description, where would they go to find out more about that?
Yes, if you go to the wolfpackmentors.com website, there's a button at the top that says retreat, and you can go there and learn about it.
Awesome.
And you can sign up, or you can, I mean, I'm on mostly Facebook and LinkedIn, as Deana B. Mitchell. So you can reach out to me either of those places, or if you go to my website, which is deanabrownmitchell.com, there's a place at the bottom where you can email me or schedule a call with me.
Sounds like a great time. You guys go check that out. Deana, thank you for giving us a glimpse into your heart, and thank you for sharing your vulnerability, your wisdom, and your kindness with the viewers today. It came shining through. I'm grateful for you, and I know those that are going to watch this, especially the replay for the next 30 days, I know they're going to be blessed by our time also. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for letting me talk about it.
Of course, of course. Guys, Deana is a perfect example. She went through a really, really rough patch. And you know what? You guys all know this. We all are going to experience rough patches, sometimes multiple rough patches, quite honestly. That's where those scars come from. But if you persevere, if you hang on to your faith, you'll find that God will turn those scars into stars. And so I just want to remind you, you're worthy of love, respect, and success. And God's not done with your story at all, not by a long shot. So hang in there. You're not alone. I hope you heard that loud and clear. You're not alone. You don't have to be alone. There is help and there is communities like Deana's that want to help you where you're at on this journey. Guys, be blessed. It's been an honor to be with you today. We'll talk to you next time. See you soon.